Welcome to the Injection Connection, in-depth discussions with thought leaders and professionals in the polyurethane infrastructure repair industry.
Well, welcome to another Injection Connection podcast with Charlie Lerman, and I've got Josh Van Hook with me today. Before I really introduce him, I want to say, I like to say that there's three main things you look at for a chemical grout. The first and most important when choosing a chemical grout is it available locally? Number one. So we're going to get into that with distribution. But so is it available locally? Two, what kind of support do you get with that? And three, the pricing then kind of comes in there. But with that, here's Josh Van Hook. He is with Whitecap there in Austin, Texas. Right, Josh?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long have you been on the distribution side, Josh?
Well, first of all, thanks, Charlie, for having me on.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate it. Look forward to it. A little bit about myself. I've been in the distribution world for going on a little over 18 years now. So, one of the prouder things that I like to tell people about is I've been with the same company for those 18 years. We've had a few different changes along the way with ownership, but yeah, so going on a little over 18 years, and this is pretty much all I know right now.
Gotcha. And did you? I think you came right out of school and got into the industry. Is that correct? Or
yeah, correct. It got out of school and was kind of just searching around for something to do. I'd always had an interest in construction and found a spot with All-Tex Supply back in, I think that was 2002, 2003, and started out in the warehouse doing deliveries and warehouse work, which was definitely interesting, but within a short amount of time, I worked my way up into inside sales, and then one thing led to another, and worked my way into a branch manager position for quite a few years. And so I did that until about 2019 when All-Tex Supply was sold to Construction Supply Group. At that moment, they turned me into an outside sales rep covering kind of central South Texas.
gotcha. Yeah. And not to embarrass or ingratiate myself to you there, but you don't find a lot of people that have the 18 years plus experience in distribution, which is really great for your customers and your base there. So
yeah, and I think that's one thing that's kind of helped me be successful on the sales side is that I've been around long enough to where I can kind of relate with some of the guys that have been in the business for a while. And but like I said earlier, you don't see people sticking around, especially my age, sticking around with one company for that long. So that's kind of something that I pat myself on the back for.
yeah, no, it's great stuff, and I'm sure everybody who deals with you, they reap the benefits of that. So
yeah.
So how did you kind of get stuck? Because All-Tex has always had a good reputation as a chemical grout supplier there in Texas. But how did you get? Because not everybody focuses on chemical grouting. So how did you sort of get roped into that?
Well, I was fortunate when I first started with All-Tex Supply. The owner at that time was a big chemical grout guy that was well versed in the chemical grouting world. And he kind of took me under his wing, taught me a little bit about it. And I realized early on the importance of knowing the specialty trades like that. But then, fast forward some years, I got to know John Zabel really well. And that's back when he was with Denise. And he just kind of taught me the ways of chemical grouting, and kind of being a waterproofing nerd, I find it interesting. Everybody go out and sell waterproofing all day long. It's one system, you pretty much know them all, but especially the grouts and stuff like that are things that really interest me. And so I did my homework and went to some schools and was fortunate enough to have contractors that I developed relationships with that invited me out to job sites to help them actually inject some grout and see how it's going on. And so I started off like that, and one thing led to another. And then, I feel like I'm well versed enough to get by in the chemical grout world.
Right. No, very, very much so. And I like that you referred to yourself as a waterproofing nerd, as I like to call myself the grout geek. So we get these kind of titles, but it is, it's something I do. I find it's stimulating to get into that stuff, and it's always unique, and it takes some thought. It's just not standard run the mill stuff.
Yeah, correct. I mean, there's no one right way to do a chemical grout job. Every job's a little bit different, and that's kind of what makes it unique, or what makes it interesting, is not knowing what you're getting yourself into when
Yep.
you're talking to a customer about possible solutions, or even being invited to go to the job site to help with something. So it's something different. It's kind of a cool experience.
Yeah, and it's a fine line between the contractor getting frustrated or being excited about it. With
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
are on that. But no,
yeah.
that's the same thing. So talking about those, kind of how each job's different. What are some of the common mistakes you see for the contractors make sometimes with chemical grouting?
Um, I see a lot of times they just don't know, and they're afraid to ask the questions. They think they know, because everybody can read a piece of paper on the website and figure out, okay, this is what I need to use. This is how you do it. This is the right product. And then without thinking about it, they'll just go out and start doing it. Whereas they should have probably got the rep involved, or a specialist involved to come out there. Because like I said earlier, every job's a little bit different, and that's probably the major problem that I see out there.
Yeah, and that ties back in. Like I said, number one, the product has to be available. So you guys stock the
Yeah.
product, which is wonderful down there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're loyal to a certain brand of chemical grout. If you need it that day, if it's not there, then that doesn't help you. But then the second part is, like
Correct.
you said, getting that tech help and having somebody, because it's not rocket science. I mean, we're not geniuses here. We have
Correct.
experience,
Yeah.
and this isn't intuitive. So we can help people get through that and kind of understand. So yeah.
Yeah, because most people nowadays, especially from my side of things, not a whole lot of people that know the chemical grout world, and the people that do are starting to be fewer and fewer. So from a supplier standpoint, having somebody that knows enough to get somebody started or get them headed in the right direction, that's a big plus.
Right. And one of the things I'd like to say, and hopefully you can add on to this, because it's right there in the Austin area, is there's a standard kind of tick you'll find from distribution that people just come in, pick up a couple pails a month or something like that. But then we have these, what I like to call, like grout nirvana jobs that just all of a sudden pop up. They're typically no bid. And I think within the last couple of years, we had, without really going into the contractor's name or the job specific, we had close to a $50,000 just on the grout material side job that came up within a few days there, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Obviously the grouting world is very up and down to the weather pattern too, and so we'll go for a stretch without selling anything real big, and then all of a sudden you'll have something break loose, and you'll have a bunch of rain, or you'll have the weather change, and all of a sudden it's nothing to sell $25,000, $50,000, $75,000 worth of grout on any given job, just because they got to have it.
And those things get kind of hard to forecast, both on the grout manufacturer side and for the distributor side, because you're like, well, how much are we going to do with Alchemy Speedtech this year? And you're like, well, last year we did this, but it's up and down because you hit those job specifics.
Yep, correct. And with the grouts, you just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, we go into corporate meetings and talk about forecasting and whatnot. And, over the years, I've learned that you really can't forecast your chemical grout sales for the year, just because no one knows how far a bucket of grout's going to go. One bucket could do a whole job, or one bucket could turn into 100 buckets. You have no idea until you get in there.
And that's exactly it. Yeah. So and that's some of the things that keep the industry kind of small and niche, but also make it interesting, and it's the blessing and curse of, I think, grouting.
Yep, correct. Yeah.
So because from my point of view, almost everybody I interact with on the contractor level is a grouter usually, or involved with a grouter some way, or has a grouting need. You get to interact with all types of contractors, stuff like that. But what are some of the contractors you see that are, I guess, hesitant grouters? They don't necessarily want to be grouters, but they do it to supplement whatever their main thing is.
Yeah, I would see, majority of the contractor base that we deal with, they're all remedial guys. But the new construction guys sometimes are a little bit hesitant to get into chemical grouting. They do it because they have to, because they're on the job and they have a big leak on something, they've got to fix it right then and there. And some of those guys tend to kind of shy away from it just because they don't know it as well as guys who do it on a more regular basis. So, and once again, that's where my relationship with the vendors comes into play, is that when I do have those guys that I have relationships with that need to do the kind of work on the job, they know they can call me and I can at least get them in contact with whoever I need to, the right people. So that way that makes their job a little bit easier.
Sure. And that is one of the critical things that distributors, a lot of people, that they don't give distributors enough credit. They're just like, well, the guys, they're always supposed to have it. That's the thing. But distributors, a lot of times, they have the stuff that you don't know you need, or that
yeah.
I almost said that, right? that you don't know that you need it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's always, and being a distributor, it's, there's times when we get questioned about, why do you have this product on the shelf? And it's like, well, we're probably not going to sell it more than once or twice a year, but when we do sell it, it's an emergency. It's got to be, so they've got to have it right then and there. And so, there's things like that out there.
So, going back through your 18 years, what's a couple of unique, interesting, large, whatever, that jobs that pop out of your mind, specific grout jobs?
There's quite a few. Obviously, one of the first ones that I was on, this is probably 15 years ago, that I actually went to the site with one of my old bosses at that point in time. But it was a elevator pit, and they had the shaft was leaking. And first time I'd ever been onto a job site down in that capacity, and sat there and sat in the corner as a young guy and just watched as they lowered the smallest guy they could find on the crew down into a manhole or up to the elevator shaft, and with a tube of some Deneve, and started injecting. So obviously that one sticks out just because it was one of the first ones I was on.
Was that right next to a quarry?
That is. Yep.
We were on that
I believe
together.
you were out
Holy
there.
cow.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that job. Yeah.
Like I said, for some reason, after all these years, that's the one that sticks out the most. And then there's some pretty neat ones down in San Antonio. There's a botanical garden one that we were on and got to go out there on a regular basis. And it's just neat seeing some of that stuff, and then also watching the contractors work. And some of those guys are like artists on how they do that kind of stuff.
There are some people that are just really incredible, and almost to the prima donna point where they're like, they got to have everything set up perfect and do all this stuff. But they can massage the grout and do some special things out there. But that one at the elevator pit, they were lowering a guy down into the shaft. There was only like 36 inches, and it was filling up with water. So we could lower him, and he had like 5 minutes of work, and then we had to pull him up. We put the pipe down in there to drain it. Yeah, it just kept going back and forth, and that was
and I was still green at that point. I'm sitting in the back corner, just wondering to myself, what did I get myself into? And here we are, still doing it.
Well, and we were both green, and we both owe John Zabel sort of the credit or the blame for getting us into this somewhat there.
Yep, exactly. The original owner of All-Tex I started with, when I got hired, he looked at me in the eyes and said, you just screwed up. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, once you get in the waterproofing world, the grouting world, you won't ever get out. And I called BS on it, and lo and behold, here I am 18 years later, still doing the same thing. That's
it. I like doing trainings with John, and I'll say, how he brought me in the industry, and then John will say, and he still talks to me. So,
Yeah. old John, good guy.
Yep. Yeah. So, so from your side of it, because we, as manufacturers, we love to do all these demos and training sessions and all that kind of stuff. What do you see as a dealer? What do you see that seems to be most effective, that helps out your contractors the most, and leads to, more sales generation or whatnot for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, in my eyes, as a distributor, we get paid to keep material on the shelf and keep stuff in stock. And to me, that's probably the most important thing is being able to provide the product to the customer when it's needed. And unfortunately, chemical grouts are not something that most people have plenty of time to plan ahead and put together orders and wait for it to be shipped in. So as a distributor, that's what what I've always focused on. I push on the guys that have worked under me, and the guys that I've worked for have pushed on me, is that you got to have material to be able to sell it. And that's the number one thing in my mind, that the benefit that we can provide to the contractors, that and a little bit of knowledge.
No, exactly. And like I led with, the three most important things. First off is it there? So I remember when I was a contractor, we had a chemical grout company talk to us, and it sounded great. We're all set. We're going to switch over to their product and stuff. I'm like, so where do we get it? And they're like, well, you let us know and we'll ship it out to you. Be there in 3 days. I'm like, oh, okay, we're done here.
That doesn't work. And from the from our side of it, if we have it, we're going to sell it. So that's the main thing. Yeah.
Well, this is kind of a quicker podcast. I don't have a ton more questions, but you also have the, if you call it well, I don't know if it's an award or if it's an accolade to say that you're the first distributor we've had on the Injection Connection. So whatever that's worth.
I'm always looking for things to hang my hat on. And it's, like I said, I know being a distributor, it's not the funnest thing to talk to, but it's good to get my side of the story out there and let everybody know that distribution does serve a purpose, and anything that you need. Typically, if you have a relationship with a distributor, if you got a relationship with a sales rep or a branch manager or somebody, let them know that you need stuff on the floor, and most of the time they'll be able to have it on the floor.
Yeah, and following up right in that same line there, I mean, distribution is there because some people just look, oh, it's just the middleman. They're just adding a percentage on there. But that's so far from it, because you have your ear to the ground between a general contractor and the subcontractors, and you know what's going on in your area and those kind of things. And that's invaluable. It's not like just going into a Walmart where someone's just stocking the shelves. You guys know the products and have those relationships.
Yeah, and that's what drives business and keeps us going. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We keep stuff on stock and have it there, so that way whenever it's needed, they can have it and get the job taken care of.
Right. Well, Josh, thank you very much. I appreciate you having you on this.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to be down in Texas pretty soon again, so I'll probably be seeing you again shortly.
Well, definitely let me know and we'll hook up and see what kind of trouble we can get into.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.